All right, this is the October 11th, 2022 meeting of the Mansfield Uconn Town University Relations Committee. We are meeting virtually for convenience, and so welcome everybody. Is there anybody here from the public who wishes to address the committee? And we haven't had any communications? No. Okay. Well, the next thing is to acknowledge a couple of new members. First of all, from the town side, I'd like to welcome Jen Kaufman, who is the replacement for Linda Painter. Big shoes to fill, but she's got big feet. So we're very glad to have you here, Jen.
Thank you.
And Mr. Hayden, are you new to the committee as well?
I am, yes. I'm the student representative. I am External Affairs Director for USG at Uconn.
Great, welcome, thank you. And I really would like to acknowledge that the university, although she isn't here, will be represented by the new president, Radenka March, and we are delighted to have her join, be formally appointed. She's received a letter of welcome from the town already, but we really look forward to her continued influence on this committee and our work with the university. Does anybody want to add anything to the acknowledgments and introductions?
Hey, Jonathan, are you in a study room at the library right now?
I am.
It looks very familiar, that's all. I worked at the library for 27 years, so I recognize it very well.
Yeah, I will just add, Mayor Moran, that Jonathan and I met about all the various roles that could, or opportunities that could exist for him to get involved in with his role as the USG External Relations. So one of the first things will be the elections. And then I did share with him that we're happy to be a resource for him, and also for him to really engage in whatever fashion he would like to, depending on what his aspirations are. And he has a background. You want to just give a quick summary of your background, Jonathan?
Sure, I'd love to. So I'm a junior at Uconn currently. Previously, I've worked as chief of staff to a research lab in the business school here at Uconn, but in an international focus. So this past summer, I was in Nepal, but also Jordan, looking at refugee entrepreneurship, but also policies specifically related to that. I also have been involved in state politics as well, volunteered on many campaigns throughout kind of my lifetime. Recently, John Larson in 2020. But yeah, that's a little bit about me. Political science and Arab and Islamic studies, a double major.
That was a slip of the tongue there, Jonathan. When I was your age, we called it political silence. All right. The first item on our, should we go around and introduce ourselves for Jonathan's benefit? I'm Tony Moran. I'm the mayor of Mansfield. I've been on the town council since 2009. I've lived in Mansfield since '65. I was a political science professor at CCSU for 20 years, but that's not really, I taught politics and law, not political science. Brian, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, John. Welcome aboard. My name is Brian Coleman. I'm on the Mansfield downtown, I'm on the town council. I'm on so many things that trip it up here. But welcome aboard. I'm also a graduate of the University of Connecticut in 1982, and I worked at the Uconn Library for 27 years, and it's great to have you aboard.
Ryan, you want to do it?
Sure. Ryan Aylesworth, Mansfield's town manager, been here a couple of years. Like Brian, ended up spending a lot of time attending or serving on various boards and committees, and certainly appreciate the importance of the relationship with Uconn.
Okay, I think everybody knows Kara. Sean?
You're welcome, Jonathan. I'm Sean Basington. I'm also a Uconn representative, town of Mansfield resident, serving various committees and boards here in town. At Uconn, I am a director in planning, design, and construction.
Jen?
I'm Jennifer Kaufman. I'm the new Director of Planning and Development for the town of Mansfield, but I have worked for the town in various capacities for many years. So nice to meet you, Jonathan.
Mr. Miller?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Rob Miller, either lived or worked in the town of Mansfield since 1971. I don't quite have you yet, Mayor.
Not many people do unless they were born here.
I'm the Director of Public Health for the Eastern Highlands Health District, which is the local Department of Public Health for the town of Mansfield. And we're also the health department for a number of towns around Mansfield also.
And Rob isn't here as a formal member of this committee, but since COVID and health concerns have been ongoing for several years now, he might as well be. Cynthia, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, Jonathan. I'm Cynthia Van Zelm. I'm the Executive Director of the Mansfield Downtown Partnership, and I also handle economic development townwide under a contract between the partnership and the town. Nice to meet you.
And Michael Gilbert.
Hello, this is Michael. I serve as Uconn's Vice President for Student Affairs, and I'm in my 10th year in that role and as a member on the committee that we're participating in today.
Thank you. And Mr. Rose, I will get to you at another time. Margaret, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, John. You and I have been in touch already. Welcome. I am the admin to this committee. I work in the town manager's office as well as with the superintendent of Mansfield Public Schools, working on communications work.
Terrific. Okay, the next item is approval of the minutes from August 9th. Is there a motion to approve? Mr. Coleman moves to approve. Is there a second? Carol Workman seconds. Is there any comments, corrections? Right, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Minutes are approved. Thank you. The first is the Uconn Mansfield Framework for Development. I know that this committee has sort of been on hold waiting for a new Director of Planning and Development for the town and a new university president. So I look forward to hearing from Kara and Ryan where you think we're going to go and where we have gone.
Well, actually, so we took a bit of a hiatus over the summer, and our first meeting up again with this group is actually Thursday. So I'm about to send the agenda out for the meeting. Wanted to just have this meeting first. And then we'll get right back into it. Now that Rebecca is permanent and Jennifer is permanent, I think we will just full steam ahead. I've put meetings on people's calendars for the next year. So yeah, that's the plan. Just keep going. And that would be the large group and the small group. The small group goal is really to put something in writing together for the actual framework for the framework committee. So we'll start working on that. I have both meetings on people's calendars for the next year.
I don't think I have anything to add. I think Kara synopsized it nicely.
Just for Jonathan's benefit, I think everybody else knows this. This is a committee that grew out of the conflict between the university and the town over economic development and the development of housing in particular. The goal is to align our two institutions so that we can cooperate and everywhere it's possible, and so that we can use the resources of both the university and the town for economic development, job creation, housing creation, et cetera, et cetera. And it's been a remarkably successful and effective group, and we're really looking forward to continuing the work. Mansfield Downtown Partnership and Economic Development, Cynthia.
Thank you. So a couple of things, putting both my hats on, but we are continuing to, the partnership is continuing to implement its strategic plan. And a couple of our main projects are definitely collaborations between the town and Uconn, working closely with Sean and Kara on a couple of those. And that includes looking at our public spaces in terms of our infrastructure and furniture and how we can bring some more shade into the town square. So Sean and I actually have a meeting this week with the landscape architecture program to see if they can assist us over the winter and the spring. So we're really excited about that. And I thank Sean for making that connection. The other piece that we're working on, Denise Kegler in our office, is how to bring more students downtown, particularly with events. So we've had a couple of Husky Student Showcase events. We have 2 more in October with different a cappella groups. And so she'll be working on that project going forward. I think the festival was a great success. I want to thank many of the folks on this call who helped and volunteered. Want to thank the town staff with Ryan's leadership helping us throughout the day and in advance of the event. We added a couple of things, the scarecrow contest, which was very successful. And the committee will hold a debrief this month on kind of what went right, what could be improved. So Denise will staff that and we'll move forward to our 20th next year. We have 2 events to close out the calendar year. We have Trick or Treat downtown, one of our most popular events, on October 29th from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m., followed by Trick or Trunk over at the Mansfield Community Center. We have our Winter Welcome on December 3rd from 4 to 6:30, and we're putting together the plans for that day. So that's another event that we're continuing to try to grow. So putting on my economic development hat, we just released with the council's support, the 2nd round of American Rescue Plan Act funds for local business and nonprofit relief. So we added nonprofit to the 2nd round. And we've been advertising that with Margaret's help and Kathleen in our office. And that deadline is October 28th at 4 o'clock. The other big project that I've been working on and Jennifer has been involved with, as well as other town staff, is our comprehensive signage plan for Mansfield. We spent about a day and a half going over with our consultant team, the signs, what they'll say, where they're located. And Sean also looked at the ones where we have, as I think he calls it, the handshake between town and Uconn, and where we may make some improvements there. So we will be submitting our responses to our consultant team this week, and they'll come out and do a field study, a second field study to see where we would actually locate those signs. And at that point, we'll have to start prioritizing which ones we'll put up first. This is a multi-year project. And then finally, the 4-town initiative, which is Bolton, Coventry, Mansfield, and Tolland, to promote our region. We just closed out our survey for a regional logo. Happy to say we got over 600 responses, which we were happy to see. And we're meeting with our consultant team tomorrow to go over that in preparation for our steering committee meeting next week, of which Ryan and Kara sit on that steering committee. So that's, I think, it. I have several board members here if they wanted to add anything.
Just a suggestion that you ask Chris, I'm blanking on Chris's last name right this minute, Blidstoddard's husband.
Kiefner.
Kiefner.
Kiefner, there we go, to take a look at the signs before they go public, and he asks for all kinds of changes. Okay, any questions for Cynthia? One of the reasons that we are really delighted to have Radenka March on board as president is her real knowledge about and interest in economic development, as well as her willingness to work with the town on these things. I think we have some real hope for some progress here, particularly around the autonomous vehicle track that has seems to be moving toward construction. Jen, does the town have anything to do with this?
We have not seen anything yet, but we probably need to have a meeting, Ryan and me and Cynthia and folks, just to talk about that. But from a planning and development side, I've not been involved yet.
Okay, the university sold the land to
Right.
the developers, so.
Yeah, they're in the process of
Not
conveying.
yet.
There's actually some official correspondence, Mayor, that arrived today on this front that the town needs to respond to regarding what's proposed in our right of first refusal. So
Now that'll be a taxable property, Ryan?
Yes.
Very good.
And the hope is that it also attracts some additional people to town. So.
Also, that is on our framework agenda for Thursday to give an update to each other.
Great. Okay. Planning and development update. Jen, do you have anything to add at this point?
I do, yes. Let's see. So we are continuing to do a full rewrite and reorganization of the town zoning regulations. We've done a high-level overview or outline that the Planning and Zoning Commission is working on, and then we will go through that, and then we will look to special topic areas. We are going to be, the Regulatory Review Committee, which is a subcommittee of Planning and Zoning, is going to be looking at a draft of the regulations for cannabis establishments. That's happening on Thursday, and I'm hoping to bring that to the commission on Monday, and then we will be working with the town council just to review those regulations based on the survey. We had a large survey that I think I shared with folks after the last meeting, or I hope I did, because I think that's in the minutes. We have we're expecting to receive a zoning map amendment. As I might have reported at the last meeting, we did for our we have a mixed use transitional component of our future land use map. And there are a few properties adjacent to some of our mixed use centers. And someone is coming in to apply that mixed use center zone. So we have the zoning text amendments, and now that zone will be applied. And they'll be coming into the property that's immediately adjacent to Timber Drive. So that's directly across from the Standard at Four Corners. We're continuing to work on the Toast at Four Corners, a redevelopment there they're going to keep Toast and Hops 44, but they're on they have submitted a wetlands permit. That public hearing is continued until November 2nd. And we are working with the applicants on a few of the details of that. We've had a number of pre-applications for two properties on Route 44, and then also another property in Southern Mansfield. We are aware of the EIE that was just released for the Mansfield apartments, and we'll be working with the Planning and Zoning Commission and Town Council on our comments on that EIE. And then we are hoping to, once we're staffed up, we still have not found a replacement for my position. We're hoping to move forward full bore with our Affordable Housing Committee and the Neighborhood Stabilization Plan. So we'll be hopefully talking about the Neighborhood Stabilization Plan at the framework meeting in more detail. And that's about it.
And the neighborhood that we're talking about is Hunting Lodge Road to Route 44, that area.
It's the northwest portion of town, but we expect whatever comes out of that in terms of design guidelines and other things will be able to be applied to other neighborhoods in town.
Right. But it does border the university. So
correct.
It's very directly relevant.
Yeah, and then we will definitely want the university to play a role, as we do our community outreach.
Kara, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I had a question about the property across from Timber Drive, only because now that those businesses have been vacating, people are just curious. So when do you think that will be, you'll start to see those buildings demolished and any kind of
Oh, the standard at Four Corners?
Yeah.
They are planning to, so we are working on the zoning permit. We think we will be issuing that within the next few weeks. They have pulled their foundation permits with buildings. So I would expect demolition will be happening towards the end of this year. And you'll be seeing a lot of construction starting at the beginning of 2023.
So I guess related to that, is there any communication that we should be being proactive on in terms of letting, or should we reach out to the Daily Campus about getting an article? Because again, people will just start to ask questions and not know where to go about the information. So if we could maybe.
Sure. I mean, I'm happy to work with you on that. Are you thinking in terms of the type of development? You know, I certainly have all the information on the number of units. It's a mixed use development. So there's commercial and retail space along with, 392 units for multifamily. So I'm happy to work with you on that, or maybe Margaret and I can come up with a press release and share.
We can talk offline about maybe connecting with some folks, just to be proactive in getting the information out, because I was already on a Facebook of something else where people were already putting out the wrong information, and I ended up posting the link to your website with all of the which I love that link.
Thank you. And thank you for directing people to that information.
Yeah. So I think it's good for us to reiterate before the rumor mill spins out of control.
Absolutely. Anytime you hear something like that, you bring it to my attention, and we can definitely get right on top of that. That's really important.
And then only because EIE, like, what's EIE?
The environmental impact evaluation.
Okay. Because you guys use a lot of acronyms.
Sorry. Yes. So that will be for the Mansfield apartments. That's been out, and we are in the process of commenting on that. And
okay. Anything else on planning and development, Brian?
Yeah, Jennifer. Did I hear that you're talking about revising our zoning regulations and revising the zoning map? And
so not revising the zoning map. We are looking at reorganizing the zoning regulations. They haven't been reorganized and restructured. We're not making any substantive changes right now, and we will be going out. Obviously, there'll be a public hearing. There'll be public information sessions, but we're just reorganizing them to make them easier to use. And then we have to do.
You're kind of putting them in order, so to speak.
Exactly, right. Okay. And then we have to do a legislative best practice analysis, because some of it's not consistent with case law. So looking at things like that. Then after that's done, we will be looking at special topics like small, like single family development, but those substantive changes are not happening at this phase.
We have there's a requirement that we revise our plan of development, conservation and development every 5 years. And
every 10 years, and that's going to be happening. Our last POCD was adopted in 2015. So I expect we're going to have to do an RFP for that the fall of 2023, because it does take a little while to get those done. So
that was the Mansfield Tomorrow document that was not just planning and development, but also a vision for the whole town.
Exactly.
So it is time to begin to relook at some of those pieces.
Right, and the zoning regulations are the way that we implement the plan of conservation and development from a land use perspective. Yeah. So it always has to be tied back to that POCD.
Any other questions? Jonathan, I don't know what you know about planning and development or economic development, but please feel free at any point to raise any kind of question. And I always say the stupider the question, the more important it is. Yeah. So please feel free.
Any acronyms, we're happy to. Sometimes we talk quickly and we speak in acronyms, but yeah.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. There's definitely some research I have to do, but no questions right now, but I do appreciate it, and I will speak.
And feel free to give me a call, or I'm sure any of us.
And I think you can feel free to call any one of us.
Definitely. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. COVID, here we go again. One more round.
I defer to Rob.
I do too. I do too.
Good afternoon, everybody. So for those of you who aren't aware, the CDC currently has Talon County in the yellow or medium community level for transmission. You recall that that's based largely on not necessarily the level of transmission in the community, but mostly on the capacity of the healthcare system to handle the whatever burden may be out there. I can also tell you that we've been working closely with a number of schools in the area with the start of the school year. There are, as we would expect, some clusters that have been popping up with daycares and schools, and so our staff has been providing support and guidance to those individual schools when those clusters or small outbreaks get identified. And there's been and now this is not just in Mansfield, this is district-wide, and certainly that includes the towns surrounding Mansfield. We've had about 5 or 6 clusters thus far this school year. I have spoken with Dr. Ayer a couple of times in the past couple of weeks just to kind of update each other on how things are going. So we remain, this office remains in close communication with Shaw. We continue to do weekly COVID vaccination clinics plus an occasional pop-up clinic. Demand has increased significantly this past month. Just to give you some idea, in August we did 10 clinics and administered 46 shots during that period. It's September, we've done 10 clinics and we've administered 291 shots. So a couple of things are going on, I think, as we enter the cold flu season. Certainly people are becoming more cognizant and seeking the vaccine, but also with the rollout of the new bivalent booster, demand has also increased. And we were able to do a pop-up at Celebrate Mansfield. We administered 53 COVID shots and I think 46 flu shots during that particular event. And so that was one of our more popular events in terms of administering vaccine. The other thing I just want to mention is more kind of linked to, if I may, non-COVID, since I've just to kind of share that the health district did participate in Uconn student wellness fair on campus last week. It seemed to be well attended, according to my staff. Lots of people, lots of kids, students lined up looking for stuff, and so we were happy to accommodate and participate. That's what I got. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Kara, did you want to add something to this?
No.
Well, my question is, what is Uconn planning to do as over the fall? Are you requiring masking or vaccination status, or?
Well, the last conversation I had with Dr. Ayer on that was no to those items, at least at this point in time. Nothing beyond. I mean, they do require vaccination still, but my understanding, and we'll probably need clarification from Shaw, but the requirement for boosters, I don't think the university has considered that yet, but I would defer to Dr. Ayer on that matter, any other university representative here.
This is Michael Gilbert.
Yes,
Michael. This is Michael Gilbert, and I can highlight that Shaw continues to administer booster shots and to respond to student test results, as you would expect. Those efforts will continue, for the foreseeable future. We have a recent report indicating that wastewater levels of COVID have reduced dramatically and have returned to the levels they were at upon the opening of the school year. And so we have no evidence of students presenting serious illness or wastewater testing that suggests that we would have any inclination right now to move back to masking or other mandates of that type.
Michael, are you testing just dormitory wastewater or also classroom wastewater?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. I know it includes residential, but I don't know the full scope of that program.
It's been interesting that program has been widely reported. I mean, not specifically for Uconn, but the idea of testing wastewater has been seen as really very effective, and it's really pleasing to me, anyway, to know that Uconn is continuing the practice as a preventive strategy. Brian?
Yeah, and I think
yes,
I'm sorry, Michael?
No, I'm finished.
Okay, Kara?
I think I reported at one of our other meetings after speaking with Dr. Ehrer that they're also doing flu. They're testing for flu and for COVID.
Wow. Okay.
Not just with the wastewater testing.
Right. Brian?
Yeah, just an observation I had. A few weeks back, a family member came down with COVID. He was admitted to Wyndham Hospital briefly, but there was a nursing strike, and then was moved down to Bacchus. And I went down to Bacchus. I was shocked at the scene I saw. It was like something from 2020. You know, the emergency ward was absolutely packed full of patients, and you know, it took my family member several days just to get a room, and it was like a scene, you know, from the beginning of the pandemic. Am I seeing something I shouldn't be seeing, or you know, maybe we're missing something? I don't know. It was just kind of an incredible scene when I got down there.
Sure, if I may, Madam Mayor, I can address that. So there's still plenty of virus circulating in the population. This, you know, the current measures that the CDC is using isn't based on risk of transmission in the community like it was previously. It's now based on the capacity of the healthcare system to handle the demand for those services, which is, as you know, is two completely different things. There's still quite a bit of transmission out there in the community, but the approach has shifted by public health authorities from one of community-based interventions to responding to outbreaks as quickly as possible, to control them individually, and also to rely much more on the treatment and other individual preventive measures that are out there, like therapeutics, antivirals, and of course anybody can go get themselves vaccinated and boosted if they want. So things have definitely shifted in a material way from kind of community-based interventions to individuals seeking to protect themselves and their families. That's not to say that we're still not responding to outbreaks and to increases in community transmission. We are, but the strategies have definitely shifted.
Now, what kind of percentage can you come up with? Maybe you can. I don't know. How, you know, of home tests that are being done, tests that can't be tracked or followed.
Yeah. So, well, you just said it. They can't be tracked or followed. You know, self tests or home tests are not reported to public health authorities. And so for every, you know, test that is reported, there are many more self-tests which are not reported. So the rates that we see in the community are really representative of, you know, what are probably many times more than what's actually out there in the community.
Now back to maybe the wastewater. That's a very good indicator, I think. What are we picking up in the wastewater? The actual virus, or do we know there's any quantitative?
It's remnants, pieces of the virus that are not contagious themselves, but are indications of the amount of virus in the population. And what Michael said earlier was that the sign of incidence of the virus in those tests is back to where it was at the beginning of the year, which means that it's, it's summer rates basically. So that's a very good sign because everybody's worried about the fall. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens. I mean, it's a moving target. Okay, anything else on COVID? All right, pedestrian safety. Ryan,
I can say a few words on this.
Please.
Sure. In jobs.
You want you skipped.
Oh, did we skip construction updates from Sean?
Yes, we did. I'm sorry.
Go for it, Mr. Vasington.
Yes.
Okay, no worries. So I'll try to be quick here. So I'll point everyone to the construction map that usually guides this conversation for Jonathan's benefit. Jen, I think you've seen it before, but just in case, let me share my screen real quick. This is the map I'm referencing. Can everyone see the aerial right now? Yeah, yes. Okay. So this is linked to an easier page to remember, which is uconn.edu/construction. There's always a static hyperlink to this map, and this map is updated every couple of weeks or so. That shows the capital projects in construction and those that are planned. And so when you zoom in on the map, from its starting point, you can click on any of these shades of yellow or blue to find out a little bit more about the project and its schedule. There's not a lot new to report since the time you reviewed the map in August, but I'll just highlight a couple of areas. The South Campus development is still on track for construction mobilizing this fall in 3 to 4 phases. The South Campus development includes an infrastructure project that I've highlighted here, the Mirror Lake reconstruction, dewatering and reconstruction here, which won't mobilize till the spring. And then the one in yellow is the new residence hall and dining facility. Mirror Lake received its determination of adequacy after a year-long SEPA process that included the comprehensive EIE, Kara. And the infrastructure project and the residence hall project are slated to start sometime before the end of this calendar year. The other one you see in South Campus is a roofing project that is still a TBD schedule based on material quantities. Just a little aside about this, given the order of magnitude, as you can see when I zoom back out, it's a significant amount of campus. Some of you have heard me say that best we can tell from our office is that may be collectively the largest construction project the university has taken on at one time. We're going to have a couple different contractors involved, construction managers, design builders to be very specific. But we are viewing it in our planning of the construction as one project. And so we've already begun all of the construction logistics, planning, the things that are absolutely critical to the university. We're conveying out to the respective projects and their teams so that we can be fully coordinated once the shovels go into the ground. Jen mentioned Mansfield Apartments and the EIE for that. She did, this one's down here, the redevelopment of Mansfield Apartments. That is now out. Its environmental impact evaluation is now out for public comment. The 45 days began a week ago. We have a public meeting coming up, I believe, the first or second week of November. And then it will remain open, I think, for about 10 more days after that public meeting. So we're just at the beginning of the comment period. It's good to hear the town's already preparing their questions and comments. We did anticipate, based on the scoping notice and the comments received for that, the town committees would mobilize, would form again to issue comments. I would say this go around, if it's at all possible, I know Linda was a little taxed for time at the time. We actually gave the town, I think, an additional week or 10 days past statute to issue comments on the scoping notice at that time, but we still received them in I think 3 or 4 different correspondences. So if the town could take a moment and consolidate its comments into one document, we'd really appreciate it. And it'll also help the housekeeping overall to make sure we didn't miss anything. Our large science building in the Northwest Science Quad is currently on schedule to open next semester. There's a meeting coming up that might change that, but I don't think that it will. We'll see. I tried to get an answer this morning and the project manager is out. So I'll have more to report on that next meeting. And the hockey arena, now officially the Toscano Family Ice Forum, is slated to open also in January over here in the athletics district. I will go ahead. We're going to, it's not directly related to our office or construction. I know we're going to talk about Hillside in the, I think it got called transportation, but I think it's a traffic agenda item. So I won't talk about Hillside right now, but we'd be happy to field any questions or comments you may have.
Sean, what makes the South Campus development bigger than the science complex? Because it actually looks, I mean, the science complex is gigantic.
Yeah, well, you can see, so for me, it's square footage. It's just the amount of land area. And you can see when you combine the blues and the yellows over here on South Campus and compare it to the size of the supplemental utility plant and the science building, it's exponentially bigger. You could almost fit the science project within the Mirror Lake footprint.
Yeah, I see. Any other questions for Sean? And I can't see everybody, so speak up. Nope, no questions.
I think
right.
Brian might have had his hand raised.
I have a quick question. How's the university doing with ADA compliance, especially at a pedestrian side of it? You know, walkways, ramps, and whatnot.
In terms of a metric, Brian, I wouldn't have one to report, but I can tell you I'm bound to public health, safety, and welfare as part of my professional licensure. So it's embodied in everything I do from my desk for planning, design, and construction of all of our new capital projects. On the other side of the street in our facilities operations department that take care of things that already exist in the landscape and make those smaller modifications, it's also ever present in their mind. That said, it's a challenging campus to have universal access everywhere. So we have taken measures to be a bit more informative about where accessible routes and building entrances exist. We've done GIS mapping after a comprehensive inventory to get those communications out. We work closely with the Center for Student Disabilities and also with our HR department on making special accommodations where there is not universal access. So, you know, I think in brief, I would say that we're doing everything we can and it's ever present in all that we do.
Okay, but there may be some past sins up there.
It's a rolling campus.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Sean.
Yeah, and I'm speaking to the physical side of things, physical plant too, right? There's other accommodations that are made for things that we're doing right now and how our students learn and how meetings are held and how videos are transcribed. So the topic of access is very broad, but my focus is on the built environment.
Okay, thank you, Sean.
Sure.
Any further questions? All right, now, Ryan, would you try to do the transportation stuff?
Yeah, so I'll speak to some of the pedestrian safety work that's been underway. I think most everybody here will remember that going back to late winter or spring of last year, we collectively, town and Uconn, really working collaboratively, sort of amplified the chorus or calls for assistance from the state to take a real serious look at pedestrian safety, both in terms of South Eagleville Road, east of the intersection of South Eagleville Road, which is also 275 and Separatist, to the intersection with 195, and then the sort of downtown section of 195 or Stores Road. And so one of the byproducts of those stakeholder meetings and discussions that were had was the commissioning of a road safety audit and RSA. I believe that process really started in April in terms of some of the pre-audit meeting, if you will, and kind of some of the initial stakeholder discussions around the road safety audit. And after some delay, because I think we had a draft report available for a couple months, it took a little while for that report to be relabeled as final. That was issued last month. So we do have a final report. It's a lengthy document with all the appendices, well over 100 pages. Breaks things down into kind of near-term, mid-term, and longer-term recommendations, everything from and kind of the more near-term end of the spectrum, which near-term basically means less need for financial planning for capital investments and clear paths to activating the recommendation, i.e. it doesn't have to go through design and engineering sort of stages. So everything from line striping and things of that nature to installation, construction of new sidewalks, and even a couple roundabouts were not proposed to be installed, but to be further explored and studied. And those would be roundabouts at the intersection of 275 and both Maple Road as well as Separatist. So, so kind of a wide-ranging series of recommendations. The recommendations are, of course, non-binding. They're advisory in nature. The price tags associated with a lot of this work would be pretty substantial. So clearly, if the town, in partnership with Uconn, wanted to see some of these things through to completion, having funding support and buy-in from DOT would be essential in many or most cases. So, but we have a real need to improve pedestrian safety in areas that get a lot of pedestrian traffic, but also bicycle traffic. And so we, meaning the town, will be using this as a guide as we chart the course for our own capital improvement planning, at least within our Department of Public Works over the next year. But we would definitely like to set up a meeting, or we'll be looking to set up a meeting with Uconn and ultimately DOT to explore some of these recommendations further. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
I don't know whether this will prove relevant, but I met with a representative from Senator Murphy's office, and they were asking what Mansfield needed, and I said sidewalks primarily, and there's some other transportation issues, but sidewalks. So I don't know whether that'll bear any fruit or not. But
well, and the other thing on pedestrian safety that you just reminded me, Mayor, that I wanted to say is, so this, sort of a recap again of that road safety audit, which focused on two segments of a road, if you will, 275 and 195 in the downtown area. But I also just want to reiterate that the town has not lost sight of our desire to see a multi-use trail extend to the Four Corners from the Horse Barn Hill area. We've taken a couple stabs or a couple bites at that apple with Congressman Courtney's office, trying to get some congressional earmark funding for it, and got close the first time around, and hopefully, whether it's that funding avenue or another one, it's definitely a major priority, and certainly will only become a larger priority as these developments that we're seeing take shape at the Four Corners as they come online over the next couple of years. There's going to be that much more people trying to get from A to B, and we don't want them walking in the road when they do it. So.
Any other transportation questions, Brian?
Yeah, I have a question in regarding North Eagleville Road. And whose jurisdiction, designated jurisdiction, portions of the road are in. I mean, part of that road, I think, is a state road, and then it turns into a town road. I'm not sure if the university has any responsibility in either those sections of road.
Let's ask Sean. He has the answer.
Yeah, oh, and sorry, I guess I never came off mute, so I apologize if there was any background noise there. So the university has had care, custody, and control of North Eagleville Road from Hunting Lodge to State Route 195 since, I believe, 2016, 2017. There are a couple of exceptions to that related to signalization, but otherwise, care, custody, and control was conveyed to us from DOT at that time.
There's a section down there by Wings Over Stores that going down towards the Hunting Lodge Road intersection. It appears to be almost a no man's land. There's Russian olive growing out into the breakdown lane or the walkway. It seems poorly lit and poorly maintained. It just sticks out that might be a dangerous area. I just wonder if that's falling, in a no man's land, like no one's watching over because no one understands the jurisdiction of that area.
I think our facilities folks are aware of the conditions there and what we were willing to take from DOT without improvements being made first. But I will remind them that you're right, Brian, to say I can't speak to the lighting, but I do know it's older lighting. We have cameras on the area in terms of surveillance and traffic. We are now constructing a new crosswalk, pedestrian refuge, and flashing beacons at King Hill Road and North Eagleville in anticipation of the science building opening, so that off-campus dwellers have a sidewalk connection to campus without going all the way down to the public university safety building and crossing there. So it's on our minds. We're doing what we can, but you're right. It does seem a bit worn and tired there. I'll look into any obstacles of the sidewalk passage too and make sure that that's not our property.
Thank you, Sean.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I think this is we have moved into transportation as well. So is there something on transportation?
I think this was on the agenda. Maybe somebody wanted to speak about Hillside Road. Is that true?
I don't remember.
Like, you mean you think there was a citizen request that it be addressed?
No, town request.
Oh.
Yeah, I think in your email to me, you asked for.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Let me pull that back up. Yeah, this was something that John Carrington. Yeah. All right.
Hillside Road.
Is it timeline or was it?
Well, also, is it doing what it intended? What's the long?
Yeah. Right. Here we go.
Put that on the next agenda if you prefer.
Yeah, so yeah, I guess I'm looking at it now. So feedback on how Uconn's closure of Hillside Road is going, and I guess our DPW looking for information on whether or not it's going to be permanent.
You want to tackle that one, Kara? So we don't know if it's going to be permanent yet. It is a pilot. That's why we're careful. I'll always include that word in our communications. We meet every 3 weeks or so, we being the traffic authority on campus and an advisory group that's chaired by our AVP University Safety and has other leadership. I'm on that in that group. So I can speak firsthand. It's a standing agenda item. We have a traffic engineer from VHB that's assisting us with monitoring it. They were also the same consultant that put the operations plan into place and had first conceived of the idea all the way back in, I think, 2016. So we just had a moment in time and an easy way to try it out this year. So we're trying it. But what we're hearing from particularly our police officers is that it's going well. We've had cut throughs behind the field house to get around the restriction. And it's not a full closure, I should say, add too. It's restricted through movement. The buses still go through their service vehicles. Light service vehicles are allowed to go there, emergency vehicles. But passenger vehicles are restricted and are directed to go up around Alumni to Jim Calhoun Way and then back to Hillside. I'd be interested to hear if the town has had any complaints or concerns with the pilot.
I'm not, I've not been provided any such feedback, but I can certainly query, folks at our end and share it at our next meeting.
I know that Public Works has been doing some traffic counts on our local roads, and I think it would be great to reach out to them because, as we know, any kind of change in one area results in a change in another area. So, but I know John and Derek have a lot of clear data on that.
Yeah, I actually saw a guy sitting in a chair at Separatist Road last week, and I didn't know if it was related to the DOT project that's coming soon or if it was you all. So I did reach out to Derek and I gave him some historic data that we had. So, like everything else, we tried to work together on it. I just didn't know if there were any real concerns or findings from those thoughts yet, but I'll keep in touch with them.
I would also, I'm assuming, which I know you shouldn't do that, but with the start of basketball season, the impact of that closure is going to be a little different for folks. So are we ramping up even our signage at those key areas for basketball? I think first night is what, this Friday?
Yeah, I think facilities is just scoped VHB with updating the event management plan. There's a very good chance that Hillside will reopen for events of that size. They're just going to study whether it would be inbound or outbound or both, what the implications would be. So, and VHB has done the event management plans in the past for facilities, so they have a good sense of the data and circumstances from past events.
All right, anything else on transportation? Upcoming elections.
I'm sorry, Mayor. I had one other item.
Sure, go ahead, John.
We're in that same advisory group is in contact with DOT. Those of us that live in town and wander around might be, Kara, this is an assumption on might be an assumption on my part. It might just be that campus is busy, weather has been good, that life is good at E.O. Smith, but certainly certain times of the day, the pain on 195 is felt. Traffic moves through, but moves through very slowly. And so we've reached out to DOT to not only look at the signals on 195, but also all of those around our campus, just to make sure that, just keeping them honest, really, to make sure they're programmed, that they're fully operational, they're programmed, they're in their timing, the pedestrian crossings, everything is working as it should and don't need adjustment. And so we had a preliminary meeting with them last week ahead of a more official meeting where they're going to look at sending their teams out to do that work in the coming weeks. We meet with them, I believe, next week.
Sean, we have been meeting with them, the town has been meeting with them over the same stretch of road.
Okay.
And I would hate to have two separate reports out of DOT done by two separate teams that haven't been talking to one another. I mean,
so very specifically, they're looking at the intersections of Bolton Road, Mansfield Road, and North Eagleville Road, those three lights. Exactly. There doesn't seem to be any delays at the Gurleyville intersection, but because those exist, or well, with the exception of Bolton Road, because the others exist on university property, They didn't say anything about the town meeting with them separately. I wonder if we're speaking to the same divisions at DOT.
That's what concerns me.
Yeah.
I think maybe you should take a look at the project that Ryan was referring to earlier.
Oh, I'm aware of the road safety audit.
Yeah, Sean's an active partner in that.
Dog Lane.
Yeah.
That doesn't include 195 past Dog Lane.
No, but it doesn't include.
Right, it ends in our geographic scope ended at 195 and Mansfield Road, which is I think right where what Sean's talking about kind of starts. So I mean it's not overlapping so much as I guess, Mayor, where I would agree with what you're saying is that I mean because one kind of picks up where the other one ends. I mean there's a continuity kind of piece to this.
Bolton roads would overlap.
Oh, I guess
Bolton Road would.
Yeah, Bolton Road. Okay.
Well, why don't I do this if you're okay with it? I will reach out to John, see if he'd like to come to the meeting that's scheduled, see if he's available, just so you're hearing stuff in real time.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Please
because, and the other thing is one of the real problems with that area is the school buses.
Right.
I mean, anytime you're going to run across the schools letting in or out, and you've got 15 school buses coming in or out of those single driveways, you're going to have a mess. And I think that's that's always been my experience of the real delays. It's the school buses, and I don't know how you can deal with that without talking to Region 19.
Well, I think it's anyone that leaves campus when the university also after 3:30, 195 has just been a parking lot. So it's not just the school buses. I think it's our own infrastructure as well.
Yeah. It would make a lot of sense to do this together in any case. And if we can achieve that, that will be a major achievement for this committee, because this is exactly the kind of problem that this committee is formed to avoid. So let's see what we can do about it. All right. Ryan, you want to talk about upcoming elections, or do you want me to say something about it?
Well, why don't you take this one? I don't think I would have anything to add that you wouldn't have at your fingertips.
Yeah. We have run into real opposition from our registrars of voters to opening new polling places on campus. And particularly for election day registration, they have an absolute legislative veto, and they have exercised it. So at least for this year, we have dropped these conversations. There are plenty of people in town who would really like to see a voting place on campus. But under the present situation, our registrars would rather resign, both of them, than participate in an election day registration opportunity on campus. So it's off the table for now, but we'll see how long that lasts.
Yep, and I'll add that I will be working with John and with others on campus to get information to the students about how best to access, how to register to vote, how to look up their address, et cetera, to include, I know Ann had asked to do tabling in the student union, so I'm trying to connect her with that as well.
Good. Obviously, this is a group of people who have a very low rate of turnout in elections nationally. It is their future we're talking about, and they certainly ought to have an opportunity to vote. So everything that we can do to encourage that, I'm sure the town will help with, except for the opening on campus facility.
And then,
hey, Jonathan, you're a Uconn student. Maybe you can pipe in on this issue here with the on-campus polling station. Do you find it inconvenient having to leave campus to vote, or do you think there's a need for a polling station on campus?
Yeah, thank you. I apologize if you called on me in the last couple of minutes. I was moving. The Wi-Fi was, for some reason, cutting out a little bit. But I 100% think that it is inconvenient for students. I also think that if it was on campus, students would be more likely just to be reminded that it's time to vote on the day of. And so students that are registered, but maybe live in, I guess a second thing is students might live in, say, West Hartford, but they go to school here. And so registering people to vote in Mansfield because they're able to do that. And so they can vote the day of here, whereas normally they either have to do absentee ballot, which many people forget to do, or travel home the day of election. But often people aren't able to do that due to the schedule of that day, not having access to a car to go home, things like that. So I would 100% say that I think it would be great for a polling location to be on campus, just because I think even though it's just the Mansfield Community Center and it's just right down the way, it's still a bus ride or a car ride for many students. And so that bus ride and car ride definitely stands in the way from voters turning out.
Thank you. I would say the university, as we had progressed down this road, the university was very helpful in our explorations of this opportunity. And I would like to thank Kara and other responsible parties for collaborating with us on this endeavor. And obviously there will be more to come, just not this year. Of course, next election is town officials, and students never vote for me. So that one will, or Brian either. So we'll work on that one when the time comes. All right, are there any items for future agendas?
This is really a question for Sean. I had asked to have the Mirror Lake project be added, and I believe we were trying to do it at the December meeting based on some of your other deadlines with procurement and whatnot. Is that possible?
Yeah, that's possible. Did you say December meeting, Kara?
Yeah, so it's December 13th. So that would be for Sean to do an overview of the Mirror Lake project, because it actually has impact for both the town and the university.
We've already seen the Mirror Lake project, though. Is there something new?
I think what Kara means is what to expect during construction, just so we're, working collectively and you're getting the information in real time. We do the same for our campus stakeholders in other meetings. So by that time, we'll at least have, it's in bidding right now, it's out to bid. So leading up to the board meeting in December, we'll have a better sense of whether or not we have a project we can afford or not. So we don't want to get ahead of that. So once we know it's really moving forward and it's going to be approved in December, then I'll circle back and share some of the construction logistics and its timing. And we'll still be 3 months away from a shovel going in the ground, so nothing we'll still have time to react to anything you see of a concern.
Great. Any other items for upcoming agendas? I will say that there are 2 vacancies on this committee from town staff, from the town side, and we have asked our committee on committees to recruit some members for that. And if anybody knows anybody in the town who would be interested in representing the town side in these discussions, please contact Sam Bruder, who is the council chair of the Committee on Committees, or the town clerk, Sarah Ann Chain, who staffs that committee. Either one of those 2 people can put their name into the pot and they'll be doing interviews and decide who to recommend to the council to appoint. And hopefully that will be on another agenda in the maybe in December. So that's yet to come. Anything else? Then a motion to adjourn is in order. Brian moves to adjourn. Is there a second? Jen Kaufman seconds. All those in favor of adjourning, raise your hand. Turn off your screens. Thank you very much, everybody, and see you in December. if not before.